Welcome to this week's Ladin-a-Pod. I am one of your hosts, Ashley Trice, and I am here with my other co-host. Rob is out today, so we're all just gonna host together like The View.
All hands on deck.
Yeah. Who else is here?
Brady Petrie,
Kyle Hamrick,
Tommy Hicks,
and Scott Johnson.
So Scott, this week you have the cover story on Bradley Byrne, the head of the chambers, Mobile Chamber of Commerce. He has sort of a dual role. He is also a lobbyist for Adams and Reese, and he represents a bunch of municipalities. And he is involved in, I guess it's a lawsuit already, or it's about to be a lawsuit involving Dauphin Island. Tell us the scoop on that.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the piece of this is that they're not involved in the lawsuit. It's anyway, I guess
his firm will be involved in the lawsuit.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird overlapping is what's happening. So, again, Bradley Byrne, longtime congressman, who's now in the Mobile Chamber, he was hired back in 2021 later, or maybe 2022, I can't remember. But he, part of his hiring agreement was there's an understanding that he could continue lobbying for Adams and Reese. And so he's been doing that for a while. Now, there have been questions over the last 2-3 years, though, is, how does he navigate whenever his Chamber of Commerce interests overlap or even conflict with his interests with his firm or with his clients? I mean, he has a long list of clients. He's named as representing and lobbying for, the South Baldwin Chamber of Commerce, the Baldwin County Commission. I think it's the city of Daphne. Dauphin Island is on that list. So what's happened? There's a they've been doing all these nourishment projects over the last couple of years to restore the beaches. Pretty impressive effort. They've done a lot of the east side already, so they're moving to the west side, and they want to revitalize. It comes up the beach, if you've seen it. I mean, it comes up to some of those houses, almost to the pilings on the houses. So they want to expand the beach 300 plus feet. And part of that is that they got to obtain an easement with this.
And most of the homeowners are really for it, but there's a small group that just want it set back a different amount.
Yeah, and to approve this easement, you had to take a vote, and they overwhelmingly passed. But like you said, those beachfront properties who have their homes up on the beach line, they're concerned that easement is basically going to rob them of their property, landlock them, and then you take away the value of their homes because they're not technically beachfront anymore. So they filed a lawsuit contesting that the property owners association can even do what they did. They'd had this vote, and they're challenging that on his face. And that's a separate issue. Where Bradley comes in is that after this lawsuit was filed, the Mobile Chamber filed a correction deed. So back in the 50s, the Mobile Chamber is the entity, and I really don't understand the background on this aspect, but they had the property and they deeded it over to the Property Owners Association. So that was the original deed. And part of that language in that deed is this exclusive use for property owners of the property owner members. And so what happened?
He came back and filed a correction.
Yeah, 70 years. That was 1954. 70 years later, plus the Mobile Chamber files a correction deed saying, clarifying the language that the exclusive use, adding enough language to say that the Property Owners Association can deed this away. Basically,
Right. So the attorney in this was like, wait a second, you can't provide evidence.
Yeah. He was like, well,
there was some such substantive change to their lawsuit. The lobbyist listed as the lobbyist.
Yeah. It would completely upend their complaint and throw it out. And that's exactly, that correction deed is included in a motion to dismiss. And they point to the correction, says, hey, they corrected this. now we can throw it out. So the weird thing is that the town of Dauphin Island is represented by Adams and Reese lawyers. The Adams and Reese lawyers prepared and wrote the correction deed that Byrne
says that on top of it, prepared by Adams and Reese, and then Bradley signs it as the chamber head, not the lobby.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. And then we come to find out that Bradley, for the last 3 years, he's been listed as a lobbyist in congressional filing reports for lobbies. With a disclaimer saying that the lobbying is for beach restoration and sustainability. So it's this weird overlapping where it looks almost like his lobbyist, the work he was doing as a lobbyist is now completely overlapped into his actions as chamber CEO.
And that's always been the concern. I mean, this isn't a new topic. When he was hired, I mean, a lot of people are like, I have no idea how he's going to be able to navigate. And there's just so many potential conflicts of interest with this,
Yeah. And
I mean, it's not like one of those, people have been saying this for his entire tenure, and this is probably just the most illustrative of it, I would say.
Yeah. And he did, I don't really know what to take of his statement to us when we asked him about these filings. He basically said that he denied ever being a lobbyist or ever being paid to be a lobbyist. I don't really understand how he's saying that when we've got 11 reports saying that he is.
So is he saying his firm is wrong, or
it's,
or is it just semantics? Like, who knows? But,
and I don't.
He could have easily answered that. Like, well, the other two were on it, but I wasn't. But then that just gives you cover.
Yeah.
For anything. So
yeah, and I'm not in the chamber world. I really don't know how much this, what these things do to people in the business world. I wonder, do people look at this and say, they question where he's coming from, or just the appearance of this, duality. They're now they don't have as much confidence maybe in the chamber. I don't know.
I think a perfect example, and Rob mentioned this in his column, is when he was so opposed to the USS Enterprise being dismantled here. Was that because was he speaking on behalf of the chamber, or was he speaking on behalf of one of his clients? And I think there are going to be instances like that, where where there just is always going to be that question. I'm not saying from all accounts I've heard, he's done a great job leading the chamber, but I just don't see how you get around this.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it was a really good story, and we will see where it goes. If the chamber board will try to address this in some way, or they'll just do the Mobile way of letting it blow over and
go by the wayside.
Away.
Yeah.
So, but
it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is.
Yes. Anyway, Brady, we've got some more. We lost Snowdon, but then we gained a couple more mayoral candidates. In the most crowded field in the history of mayoral races.
What's the saying? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. I guess we could say
Hydra.
Lose one candidate, gain 2 more. I guess, but we have 2 new candidates supposedly in the mix for Mobile's next mayor. We have Marion Dias, who appears to live in Foley, but that's where her last voting records in 2024 were. We have not been able to find any kind of property records of her living in Mobile, so I have some questions about that. But according to the Mobile City of Mobile's clerk's office, she has qualified. And then we also have
Donovet
Eli, who actually ran back in 2021, got less than 1% of the vote, but both of them are back in the race. And then, as you mentioned, Steve Nodine has dropped out of the race, and so that leaves us now with 8 candidates, I believe, that are going to be on the ballot, unless a couple of others drop out.
It's been pretty quiet.
It has.
I thought it would be. And maybe it's just going to get ugly at the end of July and August, but the next debate or forum, I think's early July at New Shiloh.
And I think
Missionary Baptist Church.
Yeah, and I think the reason that it hasn't really popped off is because you have so many candidates.
Yeah, it's hard to even know what to make of it.
I mean, it's hard to conduct forums or debates when you've got, nearly, double-digit candidates for one particular race. And, I think that once you start to see, candidates drop out, whether it be the two newest candidates who drop out, or whether it be someone like Lawrence Batiste, who's not raising that much money but has been in the race for a while. I think once you start seeing some of these candidates drop out, that's when you're going to start to see some of the rhetoric and kind of the mudslinging, if you will, if there is any. That'll pick
not
up.
that we want to see it go.
Right. Yeah. I mean, ideally, you want to see a peaceful campaign between all the candidates.
Thoughtful candidates who tell us their positions on the issues.
Exactly. But that's not always how it works out.
No, it is not. We also got some city council surprises this week with Herman Thomas.
That's one way to put it.
And jumping in the District 1 race against Corey Penn.
That was quite the topic of conversation, just off the record, with a lot of people at the city council meeting this week. They could not believe, both people I spoke to said they could not believe that he jumped into the race.
I mean, everybody knows his history with the spanking and the hung jury for his trial against, sexual assault on these inmates and moving them, all that,
Yeah.
That's been a while. I mean, what can you read the date on that cover story right there?
February of 2009.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, he has to know that this is going to come up every single time he runs for something. Why does he want to do this?
I mean, you look at every news story, including ours, that announced that he was running, and every single one of it mentions his past.
Yes,
I mean, that's just the campaign announcement. That's not even getting into if there are any debates or any forums, or if he makes any other public appearances. Like, I don't know why you would want to drag yourself and your family through that.
Subject yourself and your wife.
And just bringing it all back to light. I don't know kind of what the process is. And for the multiple people I talked to, there's going to be here soon some pretty public support for Corey Penn in that race from some pretty prominent individuals, just to kind of send a signal. Say that we don't support this individual running for office.
And
so
I think what we have until July 15th is the end of qualifying.
I believe so.
So, I mean, I would not be surprised at all if we saw more mayoral candidates or more city council candidates. Now, I don't think they'll be very serious candidates.
Right.
But
I think we've got all the serious candidates that we've,
But it just makes, if they qualify, it just makes it really hard for these debate and forum organizers to say you can't participate because you're insane.
Right. Exactly. And I mean, the couple of forums that we've covered, I know Scott's covered one, I've covered a couple, that, it just makes it so complicated because not every candidate's going to get to answer the same question.
Right.
They each have, 2 or 3 questions, on topics that may or may not be important to the city.
What they should do is, what was it? I can't remember if it was either the Democratic or Republican side for president had like 14 people one time, and you had to be polling at a certain number.
Yes.
To be able to participate in the debate. And I think that's the way that they should get a poll, commission stats.
I agree with that 100%.
And only let
the
top 4 or 5, participate in it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, like I said, I think we are going to start to see, especially after this next fundraising cycle, because I mean, last month, again, Lawrence Batiste only raised $1,500, and that's not saying money is everything, but it's a good indicator of your support. And if you've got that low of a level.
And Spira is still leading that, followed by Connie Hudson, right?
Correct.
So,
and Barbara Drummond's right there behind, followed by Price. I mean, you've got a clear idea of who those 4 or 5 candidates are that, will generate most of the interest. It's just a matter of finding a way to thin them out and, be like, hey, you have to reach these qualifications to participate in the forums. And hopefully that happens because there's a lot of issues that need to be addressed. And, haven't gotten to that point yet.
Well, at least, it's going to be fine.
It is. It should be spicy. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break here, and we're going to come back with sports and the lovely, talented, and very fresh-smelling Tommy Hicks.
Town, Lagnia-POD is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's
It's just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagnia Daily. Get signed up now at lagniapmobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
Down in our Alabama town, Lagnia Daily is on the beat. For just $6.50, it's all the news, keeping local folks in the loop. Oh, Lagnia Daily, every single morning, catching up on stories while the coffee's pouring. The local truths on every page, news for the folks of every age.
And we're back with the award-winning Tommy Hicks.
Wow.
Tommy Hicks, you won your award at the Alabama Sports Writers Hall of Fame. That was last week that you were up there in beautiful Jacksonville
State University.
Yes. And that's your alma mater, correct?
It is not. Athens State is mine.
Okay,
but I do have a shirt that says I was an athlete at Jacksonville State that I got from somebody.
Well,
but, I
Good
never.
to have.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, anyway, you were up there, and your keynote speaker was Heath Harmon, who is the next or the current AHSAA, the new one. What's he been about a year now?
1 year exactly.
Yeah.
Actually, he got hired. He spoke with us at our luncheon last year, one day after being named the new executive director. So we said, "Hey, come back. Let's find out what's happened in a year."
And I'm sure, gosh, everybody would love to tell him all the things that are wrong with the AHSAA, but he's trying to get some things right.
Yes, it appears that he is, and he didn't mind coming back. He's a Jack State graduate, and he had previously been an administrator at Oxford High School, which is right there. So that's his area, his home base, kind of.
But of course, the hot topic is always NIL and football and transfers and all of that good stuff. So what's he saying about all that?
Well, as everybody's pretty much aware now, they have formed a task force to look into the transfer situation, which seems to be a continuously growing concern of all the football coaches, especially smaller schools who lose kids to bigger schools or whatever. They transfer out, and it seems like the transferring is going on as much here as in college and high schools lately. Along here on the Gulf Coast, We've had quite a few players go from one school to another in recent seasons, and that has created.
Which is really hard to prove, I would imagine, because, of course, if you're a parent and you want your child to be on a championship team,
yep,
you and not a perennial loser.
That's true.
You can understand that.
Sure. And you can go from public to private, and that's not a problem because you're going to a private school.
Right.
It's
with its competitive balance,
the public to public, and did you actually make a, quote, bona fide move, unquote?
Right. And I guess mainly those would be like the Saralands and the Gulf Shores and Orange Beaches of the world that are the more elite private schools, you would say. Public schools, yeah.
Yeah, all of that. So it's just incredible. He kind of explained what the task force is doing currently, and the main thing that.
But they're not really an investigative body. They're just more of an advisory.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think that the key now that he talked about is what they want to do right now is establish all of the policies. This is the procedure. This is how we're going to go about it. This is what you have to do. They're going to make teams put their rosters up more accurately. There's some that put some students up and not all.
Kind of leave off someone conveniently.
Yeah, so they have what they use is the Dragonfly on the AHSAA website. That's where everybody puts their rosters and their schedules and things of that nature. Well, they're going to use that and make you now put everybody that's on your team there. And they have to be, if they have transferred in, there has to be paperwork involved with, was it a bona fide move of the family? Or did they just come from another area and move in? That if you're transferring.
Do you know the rule off the top of your head? If your kid plays their freshman year, do you have to sit out a year, or you can just move during the summer and go straight in?
No, and that's one of the issues. That's one of the things that coaches want. I was talking to some coaches today. It came up. There was some 707 out at South Alabama. And I was talking to some coaches for Future Stories, and one of the coaches mentioned to me, he said, if you could change anything right now, what he would change is the rule that if you transfer from one high school to another, in mid-year, like if you transfer in January for another, you are not allowed to play sports the rest of that year, which he said that's fine. But you're also not allowed to participate in spring football practice, even though you won't be on the team until that's a practice for the next
but I mean,
team.
if you're a stud and someone that they're worried about, they could probably
but
make
you would
it
also,
without
the
spring
coaches would
practice,
also like to be able to acclimate them to their
Right,
system and all
yeah.
that, and they have to sit there and watch. They can't really, they can stand around and watch, but they can't participate. He says that just seems like a silly rule to me.
Yeah.
If you've already transferred and you're going to be there, that's your school for the next year. And other coaches have mentioned, hey, if you transfer once, okay. You transfer another time, you got to sit a year. And I like that.
Yeah.
I like that idea.
Statewide, what are we talking? Probably like 20 kids that are sought after, probably,
Probably more than
What do you
that, I
think?
would think. It's just, here it's bunched up so much.
Yeah.
What you've seen is a lot of quarterbacks
Right.
that are at one school and the next year they're at another school. And it's kind of like they've bounced around a lot, especially the last 4 or 5 years. There's quarterbacks that are moving around because that's one of those positions you got to have.
Yeah.
And somebody sees an opportunity and the family might move into whatever that new area is. And
Yeah.
there's not a lot you can do about that. They've moved in there. That's fine.
Yeah.
It's a little easier for families to do that now just because so many people work remotely.
Right.
So it doesn't matter that you have to be at the office. You
And
don't have to
here
be
in Mobile and Baldwin, you can commute.
Yeah,
So,
you can commute all over the place.
yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see if this task force actually comes in, because there have been schools that have come under a lot of criticism. One of them was Gulf Shores, 2 years ago?
2 years
Right.
ago, yeah.
When they won the state
Well,
championship.
and too, correct me if I'm wrong, but the people on the task force are coaches that could also be accused of doing this, correct?
Some are coaches, some are going to be administrators, others
But they're
are
all going to
be
have a dog in the fight.
superintendents, where you're probably going to have somebody. And if you are,
So
it's
it's just going to be
hopeful
hard to be an
that
investigative body.
Right.
one of the policies will be, you can't vote on this. You got to
Right.
go out of the room. And I know they do that for a lot of other issues that come up before the central board, that if you have a dog in the fight, you have to go out of the room. You can't have any say or any sit in the room.
Yeah.
Like, "No, that."
Well, at least they're trying to do something
Yeah,
about
it
it.
sounds like he's trying to
sounds
do
like they're trying to address it more than the college folks are.
Yeah,
yeah.
Previously it's just been
A free for all.
Yeah.
in rumors, so nobody's ever really addressed it. Now
they're
addressed it.
getting, so and so's paying them through the, all
Yeah.
that stuff.
So now they're at least trying to address the issue.
Yeah, and then also we got this week some more Jaguar football commits.
South seems to be doing a really good job. They've got
The
8.
Spanish for quarterback. That's pretty good, huh?
Yep.
Yep.
Aiden Schamberger has committed. Hadn't signed yet. Can't sign until December. But these are all verbal commitments right now. South has 8 for the class of 2026 is what we're talking about, which are seniors this year. There will be seniors this year. They got Aiden Schamberger, who's done really well locally. He'll go in. He'll be joining, if he sticks with that commitment and signs, he'll be joining Jared Hollins, who is there from MGM.
And then Bubba Thompson from
Bubba
McGill.
Thompson.
So, that makes it fun. I like to complain about, we lose Gio Lopez to North Carolina, but at least we have some local kids to follow. That'll make it interesting.
And they've already grabbed another quarterback from Georgia Tech / Minnesota. He had already gone to Minnesota, and then he got back in the portal and signed with South. And then they have also Bishop Davenport coming back, who started the 2 games that Gio couldn't play last year. And he had a good spring. He's done a good job.
Which is a good quarterback name, Bishop Davenport.
So they've got a good
That is a great
situation
quarterback
going on.
name.
But not as good as this baseball name, Rock Gerhart.
Oh, no.
Yes. And that brings
What a
us
segue.
to our
Nice one.
our all team, all area team.
All area team.
Yeah. So we've got the 2A and 5A and our big local players from where John Stowers of St. Paul's, was the player of the year. He's a catcher, correct?
He's a catcher.
And then the pitcher of the year was Brady Harrison from Alberta. Hitter of the year, Cole Dean from Bayside. And coach of the year was Alberta's Owen Davis. And that was 2A to 5A.
That was 2A to 5A.
Yeah.
Owen Davis led Alberta to the semifinals for the first time in school history.
And that was that crazy game with
St. Paul's. The crazy stuff was they had to go through St. Paul's. And then St. Paul's went to the championship finals and lost there.
But then 6A, 7A player of the year, Rock Gerhardt. What is his position?
Rock is an outfielder.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
That fits.
Yeah.
He's a rock.
I don't even know what that means, but yeah. Then the pitcher of the year is Cade Mason of Saraland.
Yeah.
Hitter,
Just a sophomore.
Sante McWilliams of Saraland. And then the coach of the year is Kyle Hunter of Fairhope. So,
they did very well. Fairhope did well in the state playoffs this year. Sante McWilliams, a lot of people know him as running back for the football team and did really well there.
I thought that name sounded familiar.
But in baseball, he was 26 out of 26 in stolen base attempts.
Oh, wow.
That's not bad.
That is not bad at all.
That is not bad at all.
Pretty solid.
Plus, he hit like 4 something.
So you're saying he's kind of fast.
I'm thinking he's kind of fast and he knows how to hit.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Well, I think that you got anything else to add to sports before we get to the final wacky segment of the pod, which may not be so wacky.
Don't say last. No, I mean, we mentioned the 7-on-7s. You're going to see a lot of that the rest of the summer.
And we'll have high school football will be here in the blink of an eye.
It is already here.
Yeah. You seem so excited.
It never goes away.
A lot of
it never
excitement
goes away. It has arrived, and media days will be at the end of July, and then the world changes.
Yes. Friday Night Lights. All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and we will come back with the third and final segment of Ladin-a-Pod.
Just $6.50 a month for Mobile's daily news, Lagnia Daily. Get signed up now at Lagnia-Mobile.com and help keep Mobile funky.
And we're back with the third and final segment of Lagnia-Pod. So, Brady Petrie, you have been lucky that, we kind of the reporters split up an on-call weekend to cover the big events. If, we always like to say if a politician dies or there's some,
some
shooting,
some tragedy.
So the major events. And you have been lucky enough to hit both of the protests that we have had recently.
Yeah.
And you
starting to think this is by design. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's just always like the third weekend or something. But it always shakes out where Brady has to. He is the official protest correspondent of
Lagnia. Very familiar with the organizers of these things.
And as our readers will tell you, Brady does not know how to count crowds.
Oh, apparently not.
Yeah,
that is not a skill I possess. Apparently,
but this is we're all butthurt about this because it doesn't matter what we write. We're either grossly overestimating or underestimating the crowd size. What we are doing is reporting what authorities or organizers tell us,
That's it. And look, I will say on the forefront, I posted pictures from the rally when I first got there at noon. There were a lot more people who came afterwards, and the number I got from both organizers and the Mobile Police Department said that 1,500 people were there.
Right.
Now, since that was posted, we've had the organizers come back and say, well, there was actually 2,200 people there. And then you've got people on social media who say, looks like there were only dozens there, and so.
And it seems largely dependent on what side that you're on of this.
It is largely dependent on that. Yes.
But that's not really the issue. We're just all raw about it because we're sick of hearing it.
100%. Yes, I'm heard about it.
But anyway, but it was mostly peaceful. There was only one incident that, we were a little worried because leading up to it, Sheriff Birch had made some comments, and then the NAACP kind of fired back, and the organizers of the No Kings, everybody had kind of they were a little on edge. So we thought maybe something might happen at this one. So, but thankfully, that was not the case.
Yeah, it went off, relatively well. And when I got there about a half hour early before it started, just to kind of see, and there were already a lot of people there, but you could kind of feel there was a little bit of tension. I mean, nothing, there wasn't anything going on, but you could kind of tell with the organizers I spoke with, they were keeping a close eye on everything.
Right.
And I will give it to the Mobile Police Department. They had a very large presence there, I mean, very visible. So I think that kind of helped deter anything that may have, people thinking that they may try to counter protest or whatever. But it was a very good turnout. I mean, there was, rain off and on Saturday. And I mean, it was a good turnout for, that protest. And like you said, I mean, there was only that one incident, I believe. Somebody got punched, and there's kind of a back and forth on social media as to who started it and everything. But that was the only incident that occurred that, was reported or anybody knew about or anything.
Right.
So it ultimately went off without a hitch, which is more than you can say for some of the protests.
Did you see any signs you really liked?
There was a couple of signs that I liked. One involved Elvis, talking about he was the only king.
See, I saw one out of Chicago, which was my favorite one. It was saying no kings except for Abe Froman.
Yes, that one was good.
Do y'all
the Sausage King of Chicago.
Chicago, yes.
You're
I can't remember who you are.
The
That's
Sausage
just funny.
King of Chicago.
Yeah. I don't care who you are. That's just funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
I liked another one that said ice belongs in our sweet tea, and that was a good. That was
There's one that I
creative,
saw is like, get your protest checks here.
Yes,
saying
for all
because
of
they're
the
all paid.
paid protesters.
Yeah.
There was an area where you could go and collect, air quotes, your protest check.
That's
and
good.
I will say, there were
you gotta
some.
have a sense of humor about
You
these
have
things.
You have to, and
no, people do not though.
No,
God, no.
no, people do not. People take these things very seriously.
Yes.
Some of them take it way too seriously, just from what I've saw. But I mean, there were a couple of prominent people that were also at the protest. Barbara Drummond, mayoral candidate, was there. Kyle Swiester, who is running for U.S. Senate as a Democrat, he spoke at the Democrat National Convention. He was there. So I mean, there were a couple of prominent people there. I was kind of wondering if we'd see more mayoral candidates turn out. Maybe Jermaine Burrell or maybe Connie Hudson.
Yeah.
But Barbara Drummond was the only one that I saw there. So I mean, like I said, it was a pretty noticeable turnout, and thankfully went off without any kind of major incidents. So
and you may get one more of these before you leave. For those of you who don't know, Brady is going to be leaving us next month. He's moving back home.
Yes.
He and his lovely wife. We're going to miss him. And we'll have our official farewell later, but we just want to brace our audience, so they can start coming to terms,
crying,
preparing to grieve.
Yes,
I appreciate that.
But so you might get one more, but maybe not.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they did say that they are planning more these protests. This is actually, I think, the 7th one they've had since.
Yeah. Maybe next time you'll finally count the crowd accurately.
Maybe so. I'm just going to hold one of those, the clickers that they use to count baseball pitches.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
And I will say, the last thing I'll say on this, because this has been eating at me for the entire time I covered this, but the way the organizers kind of set up the person counting system, they were handing out tickets to try to get an idea of how many people were there.
Right.
But a couple of them were showcasing it as like a raffle ticket for something they were giving away. And so if somebody already walked up to you and handed you a ticket, and then somebody else offered you another raffle ticket, that might inflate the numbers a little bit. I'm just putting that out there.
That's interesting.
When they give us the Mardi Gras parade totals every time, I'm just like, just make up whatever.
Exactly.
How are we supposed to know?
Because they're so precise too. There were
33,166 people there.
I didn't know that.
They had three dogs and 10 strollers.
But anyway, we'll see what happens with the next one. But thankfully, it will stay peaceful, because that is what we all want to see. Protest.
Yes.
Now we're gonna get to something a little more fun. So we're talking about, because I was desperate for a column topic this week. If we want to just be perfectly honest, what makes you feel like it's summer? What is the is it, eating a tomato sandwich? That was one of mine. Is it going to the beach? Is it the smell of fresh grass cut? What feels like summer to you the most?
For me, it is the first day that I walk outside in a long sleeve shirt and think that it's going to be a long day because I'm going to sweat profusely.
That's a good one.
You men folk do have it much harder than the ladies. We can wear our sundresses and it's much better. But yes,
some nice bed sheet made of gingham or something that's nice and cool.
Yes,
yeah. But that's what I try to do with my seersucker is get some relief there. So definitely some seersucker suits are the start of summer to me, but also
Matlock suits,
the old Matlock suit, but also like from your column, some homemade Grape-Co ice cream.
Grape-Co. No,
Wow. Have you
I would
heard
say
of
vanilla.
Grape-Co?
No, well, I know that. Yes, it's the grape soda, but I've never had it as homemade ice cream.
It is really good.
So you just pour it in with
it in like you would whichever kind of flavor that you add. You just pour you a couple cans in there.
Orange would be good. Be like
orange might be good.
Oh, that'd be good.
A Yoo-Hoo is also good too. Some Yoo-Hoo flavored.
Yeah.
It's like a Frosty from Wendy's. It's really good.
Some tips from Corner that I'm
ingenuity.
all about it.
Your homemade ice cream brought to you.
I'm here for it.
By Grape-Co and Yoo-Hoo.
I do have an ice cream freezer, but I always just make vanilla.
Yeah.
So.
Which is good too.
Yeah.
That's also good.
Yeah.
Grape-Co's good.
Yeah. So what is your summer?
I think it's just vacation.
Yeah.
When you get to
probably unplug
cut everything off for a little bit and just give it. That's when I know it's summer because that's when I always check it.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's when, when growing up family, that was always the truth.
Are you a tomato sandwich eater?
No.
Oh, yeah. You're a really picky eater.
I'm very picky.
And Brady, do you eat them?
I do not.
So Colin, are we the only?
Well, my mother likes them, but I don't really go for a tomato sandwich.
Wow,
that is very surprising to me.
I would have had him. Pegged as a
tomato
shelling
sandwich
peas and eating tomato sandwich.
Now I did shell peas. I did shell peas on my grandmother's porch for years and years and years and years.
Yeah,
but some fried green tomatoes.
No one ever does that anymore.
I know. Yeah, I know. And I've been wanting to
because it takes so long.
Actually, my grandparents in Red Bay. Last time I went up, we shelled peas out on their front porch.
That's awesome. Because I've been wanting to find some peas to shell.
I saw, I saw one of the little Brian's produce.
Little Brian.
I think it's maybe somewhere, maybe up in North Mobile County. I can't remember. Okay. But I saw he had some Purple Hull peas that were.
I love Purple Hull peas. I love me some Purple Hull peas. Those are delicious.
It was a bowl that my grandmother used to put the peas in. It was like the pea,
the pea bowl.
Yeah, I don't use it for that anymore. But every time I look at it, I'm like, that was the only bowl she used.
That was it.
There's something calming about it too. Just sitting there shelling peas.
Yeah,
it's just something calming.
Watching The Young and the Restless or whatever your grandmother's soap of choice was.
Mine was spaghetti westerns.
Perry Mason.
Yeah. Anyway,
Perry Mason or Matlock.
Oh God.
No.
Anyway. Hopefully, it will stop raining every single day, so we can
actually enjoy the summer.
Yeah, because although I said I was complaining about that this morning to my husband, and he was like, well, next week there's a high pressure system that's coming in and we're not going to get any rain and it's going to be 110 degrees and you're going to be saying, oh, where's the rain?
Where's
and
the rain?
Said, that is right. I'm never happy. But anyway.
That's funny.
Yeah. So anyway, enjoy all of your summers and enjoy the rest of your week. And we will be back next week with another exciting and scintillating.
Hey, there we go.
Let's do it.
Good.
Yes. Episode of Lagnia-POD. All right. Take it easy. Bye. The Lagnia-POD is a Something Extra publishing production. Executive producers are Rob Holbert and Ashley Trice. Music is by Some Pulse Sounds and Electro Animals. Only subscribers like you have access to this podcast. Tell your friends they can sign up at my.lagnia-POD.com. For advertising opportunities, please call 251-450-4466.